Hey howdy folks, it's time for another Cosmonarchy cast. We're once again looking at Gauntlet Stage A qualification matches. We have best of fives galore. And today we're going to be looking at some Zerg versus Zerg, including some green Zerg versus Zerg. It seems like we have an asparagus Zerg of jakulangski in the top left of Potadilla, a map by Biddy B. He's going up against the green Zerg of Art of Turtle. So two different flavors of green, of verde. It looks like jakulangski will be going for a Kagrid into Larvosk and AOT. This is going to go for a pool start by the looks of things, unless he's banking for Vespine or something. He might have some fancy ideas in play. I'm interested in this series mostly because this is a sort of tale of multiple different Zerg players that definitely ought to be in the battlement stage, definitely ought to be in the, say, top 20 or so players of Cosmonarchy. But I'm always compelled by how the sagas go, and Art of Turtle versus Jack has actually been a fairly common matchup, particularly for qualification. I think they've played each other every qualification series, and typically AOT ends up getting the better of him. AOT did beat jakulangski in a ZvZ best of 5 last Acropolis in the throne room stage, so it's even extended past qualification, but they just find each other so very frequently. And while AOT is the more experienced player, Jack is younger, Jack is more fresh, Jack hasn't done as much Brood War play as AOT obviously does. It's always interesting to see Turtle fight it out. So if you're new to Cosmonarchy, you're going to be more on like the Jack side of things in terms of your age or whatever, then you might be rooting for the upstart, the guy who's just now sort of coming into his own as a competitive player who likes to participate in tournaments. If you're an old head and you actually even recognize the name AOT, you recognize StarCraft 1, North American homies in the pro and semi-pro and amateur levels, then you're definitely going to be more on the side of AOT. Jack is from the Philippines, if that matters to you, if you like the regional rivalry, AOT from America. But I'm always excited for this matchup, and I'm happy to bring it to you now. You guys want to support Cosmonarchy, support the project, we do have a coffee page open. At some point I might end up talking with ZvZ about changing that to coffee.com/Cosmonarchy, but right now it is Pronogo and Week 7. And yeah, your contributions go right back into paying bills so we can keep working, or paying for stuff related to the project itself, so it's much appreciated. We also, of course, do accept donations for prize pools and stuff like that. Just let us know what you're actually donating towards, and we'll make sure it gets there. A pair of Zetracors attempted to get up the ramp there for Jack. All he scouts is a bunch of Quas, but there is a Zerkish Shroud coming for AOT. And this map is kind of interesting. So we got that ridge cap coming for Jack, and he does also have a second Larvosk on the way. Neither player choosing to expand, but AOT has had more larva for some time now. So worker advantage starting to commence. Obviously has the tech advantage in terms of pacing. But yeah, we're going to have to see what happens here. The Avaleth is out for both players. That's going to be a transport and a detector. And it looks like it will be a Zeth drop. So it looks like Jack wants to probably pick Larvosks, and actually, the SimCity for AOT means that the surface area is a little bit limited. You can run through like this area, I think, and you can definitely run obviously like all around the mineral field or all around this side of the Zerkish Shroud, but it's interesting that he's going for something like that. He should still be able to inflict some damage with all the Quas down here, but it's compelling to me that Jack is going to go for a move like that, and also interesting that the SimCity is already looking pretty good. In case you're wondering about the Zerg units, obviously we have a lot of changes to all of the races, but the Quas actually get movement speed every time they attack, so they end up being a pretty tricky strain to watch out for. Tricky Zerg unit. The Zets are going to unload at the extremity, not noticed by AOT yet, not on the mini-map, and yeah, they're just going to be able to come right on in and start heckling the Larvos. They also scout the Shroud and scout that Lakes are being made, so that's one dead Larvos. Workers get pulled. I don't think Jack's going to be able to secure the kill on that second one. Maybe if he had gotten more of them out. Did he even unload all? Yeah, he did unload all of them. Oh, he actually does pop it. That's a bit of a mistake from AOT. It feels like most of his Lakes were borrowed in a capacity that weren't available, but that's a lot of dead gas, and you have to say, despite the fact that the hatch has been taken in the natural, AOT, he has access to more Vespine than his opponent. You can tell because he's already on the geyser, but that does hurt. That's painful. Going to set our turtle behind a little bit. He did have that brief stint in Tribunal 6, I believe it was, where he played a Skozi, who was defeated by Grass Eater, who also participated in the Gauntlet stage here, where we're going to see if, check in with him a little bit later on, but he actually ends up awaiting the loser of this match in the lower bracket. So, where we saw the loser of our match yesterday go down to face a Terran player called Kutyam Chupin from Hungary. We're also going to see the loser of this match here, either AOT or Jack, going to go down to face the American Zerg, I like to eat grass. I like to eat grass, and I am the wheat of God. Though that's the I am the caster, and I am doing these things. I am also the player series right there, and so I hope that happens. That would be wonderful. Only one Ovoleth so far, but we'll be picking up a Lakis, and it's going to be Jack's turn to burrow Lakis in his opponent's face. Zoryu's on the way for Turtle. It's an interesting play. Remember that the natural is really late here for Jack, so he does need to get some economic damage, and his reaction time is sorely lacking there. So instead of being able to do much of anything about that, he just focuses on running these Lakis in. And, I mean, his whole rest of his army is over on this side. This feels like a very confused move from Jack. He definitely could have had a bit more deliberation in his move, or maybe he didn't even intend to send those Lakis in. It was kind of effective in that it canceled out some mining, but the ridge returns to being saturated, and yeah, that just doesn't quite feel like the best move. Obviously, the right idea, in theory, to come in here and do some harassment, but the Quas were available, and they can just step on the Lakis to reveal it anyway when it does go get burrowed. And on top of all of that, yeah, just not the way I wanted to see Jack take that engagement. He did end up losing 3 Lakis and an Ovoleth, so he's a little bit blind as to what's coming next. He's got a bunch of Lakis coming down, some Zets scattering around looking for any movement on the map. The one Lakis does end up unburrowing, and look at this, there's just a bunch of Zets trying to get loose themselves. They do end up scouting out that there are more. And we saw a pair of Nathicors being made by Jack. I'm sure he intends to sick those on any Ovoleths that are here for detection. Wouldn't suck to have, like, 4 of them and send them across. We do have 2 Droleths here as well. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, there's the Nats trying to take some chunks out of the Ovoleth. Pretty effective there. Gotta remember that even though they don't have armor penetration, they do rend 1 armor when they attack. So he's actually going to be able to get rid of multiple Ovoleths. Not every single one, though. Not every single one. Man, he's rallied a bunch of Droleths out here. I do think that, that's definitely a mistake in this case. But you're always tempted when that kind of thing occurs to, like, oh man, I can't send them all the way back home. I gotta just go and proxy K-Grim right now. His Lakis are not burrowed, so this is an engagement that's going to favor Turtle. He already has his Ultra Cores out, evolved from the Zoryus, and yeah, that burrow is way too late. Jack's starting to falter. The Zet's running in to do a little bit of damage and run interference while AOT is breaking out of that containment. And it looked like it could have been a really good one, but there's no way to debuff those Ultra Cores. And, well, he does get a drop over here. Already 10 kills. That's actually very effective. AOT going to be struggling up a little bit. Looks like our admin, George the admin, shout out George, new admin, has the source of the hatch, so the players are going to continue unabated. I was told that the replays are fine, so no worries about that, unlike our last series, Game 2. But the Lakers are going to return back, and we are going to get some static defense up. Zoryus are out at the very least sort of contribute to the health pool now, and they can reduce the attack speed and the armor of the Ultra Core by way of the Riddle Cores, but the Zets get right on top of those Lakis. I've not really seen Lakis get killed by Zets like that. Those are some brutal surrounds, but this one is still alive in the back behind all of the circuit and the other ground units here. Looking like a hold from Jack after all. There's some more units trickling in, but I think they need to turn tail. I don't think they're going to be able to actually convince Jack to concede from this position. Olgorg on the way for him. Ultra Core ended up burrowing by mistake. I think it was supposed to just be the Lakis that did that. But everything is just about picked apart here. So very nice play from both sides, but definitely a tight hold there from Jakulangski. He manages to make it happen. And in the chaos and the bedlam and everything else, so many Zets have been made. Do we have any tech coming for either player at this point? Not really. Obviously, I already called out the Olgorg. Maybe a third base is in the cards here for Jack as he sends it across to the, I guess you'd call this interior 11, inner 11, but whatever you want to call that. The forward third is being taken. Sometimes people will take the 12-6 area, but not in this particular set, at least not for Jack. Every time the Zoryus attacks a unit, it debuffs them and makes it... They have to be an enemy unit for this to work, but anytime the Zoryus attacks an enemy unit, it debuffs them, and then allies near that debuffed unit start moving faster. So it's a pretty scary way to get like Zerg to engage stuff. George decides he'll just validate the replay. I remember actually reading something about that, I think. And it does look like with this Obeleth from Jack scouting out the army rotation, he should be able to do something about this position, but most of his units are pretty embedded, and this is also a side effect of him going for all that static defense. AOT found that third base and crushes it immediately, forcing a cancel, taking his own forward third. I do like that move. I think that really did put him back into the driver's seat. And remember, he's got the upgraded, fully upgraded tech node here, the Zozark Gorge. That means that not only can he make the Ultra Core, but he can evolve his Gorger Cores, which is making 5 of. They're like flying Ultra Cores, flying Ultralisks in some ways. They've got splash damage on area of effect. Now, their anti-air is not very good. Ironically, Nathicores do actually still beat them. They do dominate the skies. But if you end up going for the upgraded Gorger Core, the Zarkava Core, which it does seem like AOT is considering, that unit has splash damage versus the air. So just keep that in mind, because we are in a situation where the Zarks are on the way. So he's going for that. He's definitely going to have some serious power behind it. I guess if the Nathicores were able to hit anytime soon, it would be a bit of a different story. Jack's making his own Gorg. It does have an armor end, similar to when the Rocore dies, and applies that corrosive touch passive, which uses the purple overlay that the Devourer had in original StarCraft. Our version of the Devourer, the Vithrilisk, does have that. But another Lakers drop going to come in here and scout the tech. But yeah, it feels like right about now the Gorgs are only going to be so useful. They're going to help clear out all these Zets at the very least, and the Lakers are helping out as well. Ground Army definitely being won right now by Jack, but the real strength of power from AOT is yet to be revealed as his Apex strains from Tier 1 come into the fold and start to tear apart the limited anti-air that Jack actually has. When these Gorgs go down, there's not a single thing his Ground Army can do about that. Now, his Lakers has been farming over here, the Obeleth providing good vision. In the meanwhile, 8 workers have gone down. It looks like more are on the menu. Going to take a little bit, and they will end up missing those 2. Ground Army continuing, the Ultra Core taking forever to actually properly go down thanks to its ability to eat things. And the Zets can go after the workers while the Ultra Core takes all the aggro, so that's actually really good for Jakulangski, still punching above his weight given the negative situation he's found himself in. Ironically, he needs the Vithrilisk right now. We just talked about that Devourer equivalent, but he has no Hydrith Den, and that's the precursor to what you actually end up needing. Finally, the Ultra Core will pop. Zets chasing the workers. Should be an easy enough win for the defense here. And it does look like the Lakers was taken care of courtesy of some Zets. So AOT's back to owning and controlling his territory. Third base has been mostly taken care of by the looks of things. Some more Zets on the way to maybe pressure that, but not a real whole lot of room for Jack to find aggression. At the very least, he's keeping the heavier air units away from his base. So he's not going to worry about just straight up losing to an anti-air attack. Trying to pop some of these units, maybe aggress against the Hatcherovsky. Still waypointing more mineral spam units. You know, Zets are pretty cheap. Zoryu's not quite as cheap, 175 minerals. But they're beefy, they're tanky, and you do make Ultra Cores out of them. Starting to have a Harvest Fest speed from the third base. Nathicores have been made. Not really, again, they clump up a little bit too hard. It feels like the Zarkava Cores are going to be able to take care of them. You can see how bruised they are from attacking only one of them. So they're kind of looking around. Oh, they tear apart that Gorg. That was very quick indeed. I guess if they isolate like that, the Zarks actually are going to be vulnerable, but you can only do that so many times before so many of your units are likely to just get owned. Yeah, they're all going to go down here. I don't think they're going to survive. Yeah, that's how quickly that can turn a very knife's edge sort of matchup between units, and I'm not talking about our port of Dominator by Jujic. Get it? Because that port's named Knife's Edge. Now this looks like ZvZ that I know, and well, maybe love is a strong word, but at the very least admire the dedication to the craft. Lakers have arrived as well. This is so funny. He just needed some opportunity to step on those units, and then his Gorgs could mulch a dozen Gorgs. And a single Zark still left alive. He's got one more in the mineral line over here. Honestly, I don't mind the idea of having it over here with an Obeleth to deal with those Lakers drops that have been giving AOT so much trouble. A heroic effort from both sides, but particularly I think Jack has been playing from behind for some time. Behind in terms of tech, behind in terms of pressure, behind in terms of economy, and now he makes more of those Nathracores, aiming to try to kill the Gorgs before they can do much of anything. I think this might be a little bit too much for him, but I guess it's probably cost efficient if you think about it. He was a little bit too spread in terms of damage there. He might still be end up. Yeah, he does kill another Gorg. So he killed half of them with however mmany Nats that was, and he ended up keeping 5 alive at the end. So definitely cost efficient. Goes to show you the level of power there. And he still runs in. He just straight up kills a Kagrant that was morphed there for presumed defense with a couple of Zets. Just trying to send as many units as he can out across the map, keeping his money very low. Macro hatch starting inside the main base. That's the third one in, that's a surplus to the main town center there for AOT, trying to get his larva up with minerals since his gas is being banked for something else. Could it be that he's going tier 2 from this position? It could be, I feel like. 16-minute ZvZ, guys? Come on, tell me Cosmonarchy isn't really cool. I mean, this is pretty cool. This is a pretty cool game. Now, we do have a lot of chaos, we do have a lot of action, and it does look like Art of Turtle is going in for a pretty big uppercut here. The ground army from Jack can't really step to all of these Zets and Zoryus, and the air army can't really deal with it. Look at the Nathracores, they're just going to get mulched immediately by the Zarks. You can't take the fight versus all that splash damage. They pop one of them, but the rest will be dealt with, and he only has a Spraith or two. The Circuits are trying to help deal with the ground army. Everybody else running interference in the middle of the reinforcement line, but the third base is shut down by Turtle. He's scaling up his pool, and GG is called by Jack. He says GG is plural, but I don't know if he realized he's got at least 2 more games to play. Let's see what happens behind door number 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some more Cosmonarchy action. ZvZ continues. We are on Monazite, a map by Cannoli. It is an island map first tested in the latter half of the Tribunal stage, and it is officially here for the wondrous, the amazing, the incredible Acropolis number 4. Jakulangski might have only just now realized the map that he selected, or maybe he's just reacting to my cast through time. I'm not sure. Art of Turtle, the green Zerg in the bottom right, has played pretty good on Monazite. I guess they were probably testing out latency, actually. But yeah, AOT's actually played a number of games on Monazite, and including a real banger versus Arbuz, where like the winner of that game felt like it kept ping-ponging back and forth, and eventually we settled on one. Jakulangski in the top left is the Platinum Blue Zerg. No, Neon Blue. I believe he's played not Zerg on this map, but in some practice games he's played on this map, and I don't know. I am curious as to what we're going to see out of him. I can't recall a Zerg game he's played that I've seen or casted on Monazite. I'm only tangentially aware that I think one time he played Protoss against like Vilius or something. Maybe it was Terran. I don't know. Jack's a silly guy. Sometimes he plays the other races and pretends that he's still Zerg and still leads all the oil or whatever. Silly guy. At the very least, we do get to see Jack in action. It's felt like it's been so long since I've actually seen that. So I appreciate that. I'm glad that he was able to find the time to play, and hopefully, for all of our sakes, we get to see him in the Battlement stage. But right now, his first jaunt, his first opportunity to qualify, isn't looking like it's off to a hugely hot start. However, I will say he was behind that game very quickly. And of course, an island map is a perfect way to reset in a series. It's not going to play like any other map. So sometimes you would even see maps like this. Island maps are just non-standard weird maps. Be the first map selected in, say, ASL for the pro StarCraft 1 enjoyers out there. You'd sometimes see them get that map out of the way. Jane Doe was the map that most notoriously ended up getting seen there. You ban one that you don't want to play, you pick one that you do, and having it in the first 2 sets of your series often gives you a little bit of an edge, because you just say mentally, doesn't matter win or lose, okay, I don't even have to worry about retaining information about how to play like that because it's so different. Weirdly enough, both players going for the Vornath opener. AOT's is a little bit more hasty, and an Oboleth is coming for what appears to be a Quas drop. It looks like right now AOT is going to be going for Naths. He wants that air supremacy, so that's why he was rushing the Vornath. I'm assuming that even though he's making an Oboleth, he's not going to use it as a drop. He probably wants to counter drop with the Naths, because they're very, very good at anti-air, and maybe ground the Quas if they are indeed scooped up, and then see if he can do some counter harassment. Probably won't be able to kill the workers because you can just burrow, but you can definitely force burrow and then target the Larvosk or whatever. So I don't know, there's a bunch of different options here, but it will be a Zeth drop and not a Quas drop. The Quas are going to remain at home as anti-air, which is very good, but they are moving across the map on intercept course. This will not be a surviving Oboleth, and the Zets can't actually do anything other than scout. So this is going to put Jack behind a little bit. Oh, he only gets one out anyway. They all end up dying to the Nafts. That's brutal. Feels like, yeah, if you're going to do a fast drop versus a Zerg, you probably want to go the long way. Quas are going to get jumped on immediately. Some of his own Nats are here. Now it's going to get down to control. You know, we only have the 3 Nats available. No, make that not quite. Because just like the Quas, the Nats have the I attack, I move faster now ability. So, swarm, you know, they are going to swarm out like that a little bit. Not taking the back base, instead the forward one. This is an interesting choice by Art of Turtle as his natural, because the back base is a little bit safer. By the way, Monazite is an interesting map because it's an island map by the main spawns. Every other base on the map is connected by land. As far as I know, there are no other islands on the map, so very interesting. Quas will be unloaded in the natural to guard it, and there's Quas inside the main to deal with that as well. 1 Nath going down, 3 remain for Jack on this side of the map, and it does look like he's just going straight into the Hydrith Den, and he will be expanding himself. Now, he has not confirmed that the back base is not occupied. Naths are going to be sticking onto each other, and that will be 1 out by AOT. Even gets a little bit of a firing support from that guy. I guess his Nath was spared by that Quas attack, thinking about it. Most likely, anyway. And now he's going to scoop his 5 out of 6 Quas and see what he can do with them. So, oh, okay, not actually going on the offensive. Obviously, Zerg, when you hit tier 2, they can just make a Nidus and then rally their stuff through that. So it's not terribly difficult for them to link any production inside their main base to their the rest of their map, the rest of the low ground or whatever, but it's not a map that we've seen that much solving on. I feel like a lot of players who maybe would try to do the dedicated, here's what I do on Monazite, they aren't going to look at it as a genuine option because they assume it'll be banned or they want to ban it themselves. So when it does show up in the series, I'm really excited by that. AOT coming in for a scout. He will be taken care of here by the defenses, but keep in mind that, well, I say that, in theory, he could have like flown away from the ground units and then turned and fought the Naths there by himself. But anyway, that's like a really minor micro note that I don't think he cares too much about when he's already got the tempo on the expansion, already got the worker count advantage, already had some early damage dealt to his opponent, and is now going for the tech. Apex tier pool units are going to be available. That includes the Calculus, which you morph from the Nath, and the very, very important Lyralisk that you morph from the Quas. A pretty good unit to have when you're just trying to sort of bounce attack other pool units. And their anti-air is okay versus things like, you know, stacked Nathricors. Skits are a little bit beefier, so it will take a little bit more hits for them to deal with that, but they have the range that it's unapproachable, really, at any number by something like a Skiff Cloud, which is being assembled right now by Jack. He does want to make a lot of skits. He does want to get hamster style, make like 30 skits. I think it was Netwine who said once that you either make no skits or you make 20. Something to that effect was his wisdom over and over again. And it's not hard to see why. Now that Avaleth is dead, but there's no cloaked units or anything to deal with here. And it looks like the Iziricors aren't quite going to be able to besiege this space. We don't have any anti-air in this position. But the Quas are going to be enough with the Khazithrith follow-up there. Trying to fight on top of the Khazithrith is probably a mistake here from Jack. Even still, his anti-ground units are doing their job. But again, he can't really like come in here with his Iziricors and absorb some of those attacks and try to like deal with those units. I guess still he'll end up wiping the ground army, but still, this is looking like it, you know, that was very expensive. It was a very expensive way for that to go down. Trying to make the Spraith there. It might be able to finish in time. But the Quas are going to come out to deal with this anyway, so... Oh, it does actually end up getting got. That's not terribly bad for Heart of Turtle in the end, because he does wipe the army, but... Didn't really lose that many workers, and didn't really lose that much infrastructure that would make you say, oh, damn, you know, now he doesn't have the larva production that he would need or anything like that. So definitely firmly ahead in the lead right now. Ends up starting on a few Lyralisks. You do want to unload, like, if you're going to ferry Quas, you before they turn into Lyra is better because they take up less transport space. At least I'm pretty sure the Lyra takes up 2, but I could actually be wrong about that. We'll test by doing this. Nope, they take up 1, so I tell a lie. Doesn't matter. 5 skits coming in. 2 more joining with them. Just going after the worker count here. Jack does have a lot to claw back here. Not only does he, like, he has a worker lead right now, sure, that's well and great, but he for such a long time didn't. And now, oh man, if he had more skits, he might have been able to just spawn camp all those Nats. Instead, not a single one of them goes down, and that is a pretty big victory militarily for AOT. Multiple times now that the Skiths have not been what Jack needed them to be. And he still hasn't really properly saturated this base. You can see him starting to ferry Drolef, but I don't know. That feels like it took a little bit of time to really take shape here. I certainly hope that we end up seeing some kind of recovery here for Jack. Going down 0-2 at the beginning of the set could be a little difficult for him to handle. But we have Calculusks on the way, and remember, those are crowd control units, and they can fight Skiths if they maintain anywhere close to even numbers. And as it is the case with many other units, there can be an inflection point where, you know, if you hit like 10 Skith, you're probably going to kill, or 10 Calc rather, you're probably going to kill a lot more. You start to suddenly become much more cost efficient. Skiths still deal splash damage themselves and are more mobile and are more durable, so there's an argument to be made that you can build them and use them to counter Calcs, particularly if you get the jump on them. But look at the Nath count, we got 14 of them. More Calcs can be made as soon as AOT has the minerals for it, if he even wants to go for something like that. He is just going to take care of these units up here in the top, and his Quaz Lyra army is starting to push forward. The Skiths are returning to try to defend, but it's going to be at least one Larvos going down, and maybe a lot of workers going down as well. The Calcs arrive to start adding more punishment, and they need to deal with that anti-air first. Indeed, Jack will do so. But he still has to deal with all the ground units here, and the Calcs are arriving, still putting down damage. That's all the Skiths. He's only got 3 in production. GG has to be called by Jack. And it looks like he wants to say GG's because he was playing multiple games at the same time. No, I actually don't know why he says the GG's plural for each one, but that's what he's doing. And AOT is now on qualification point where Jack, if he loses any of the next 3 matches that, you know, where only one of them is guaranteed at this point, he will be cast down to that lower bracket to once again play ZvZ, but against a different player. So let's see what happens in Game 3. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, Game 3 before us. Jakulangski on Battle Spectre going up against Art of Turtle. Jack is purple. Just plain old purple. And Art of Turtle is green. Plain old green. We got over 100 player colors in Cosmonarchy, and you can pick them in your config. You can set preferred ones, you can set it to randomize, you can set all kinds of things. And some players have even done that in a specific way to kind of troll me, because I do the color guess every game that I remember to, and that's most games. But then they're like, what are colors that he gets wrong all the time? And trust me, if you are playing a SCOZY in particular, like the Landlocked doesn't have great player color recollection on it yet for me. I haven't really seen it for 100 years like I have for the other races. So yeah, let's just say it's a little bit of a challenge for me to guess that one in particular. If you go like Cosmic Cobalt, Dark Sapphire, probably there's like, Ultramarine maybe would be another one. I don't know. Delft Blue. If you randomize between those colors and then, you know, probably like 1 or 2 others, it's going to be hard for me to tell the difference. Just a tip there if you're trying to make some banter on the broadcast by way of making me fail the color guesses. Also, it helps me because then I get really good at it. I'm like strength training it, and it's pretty cool. Battle Spectre is a map by BiddyB. We saw Patadia, map 1 of this series, was also by BiddyB. So we had a cannoli map sandwich with BiddyB as the bread. Biddy bread? We definitely have some interesting stuff here. Battle Spectre is a 4-spawn map in theory. Like, there are 4 starting locations. But it is cross-spawn enforced. You will be cross-spawn, whether you'll like it or not. We do have the pool coming for both players. It is a fairly similar build with AOT being, I believe, a little bit later on the pool, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it looks like it. So maybe Jack has a slight edge in that respect, but nothing really has developed just yet. We're going to wait a little bit longer before we see many dividends pay out and many differences had. But Cosmonarchy has 50+ units per race. So it's, and that's not counting structures, mind you. It's well over 50 if you count structures. This is just a game with a lot of tech tree depth. You are going to see different things in each game, and it's not just because one of them was an island map. So thanks for joining us for that, and let me know in the comments below what you guys think the best Zerg unit from Tier 1 is. A lot of people are probably going to say Ultra Core. I feel like there's so many good choices, but I'm gonna say what is the best? I don't know. Maybe if I remember, I'll say it at the end of this series. Maybe it'll be a unit made in this series, but I wanted to throw that out there now, and then, you know, comment bait, comment fodder. Maybe instead of commenting Algo, you can comment your favorite Zerg unit. But if you decide to just comment Algo, I appreciate that too. Took that opportunity to take a sip. We do have an Ovoleth flying across the map, and the Quaz happily attacks it. I thought this, like, paintbrush of Fog of War was maybe a little bit too straight for a ground unit to take on Battle Spectre, because as you can see, there's like a winding path and a couple of bridges and stuff. And then I looked over it and I was like, oh, it's an Ovoleth. That makes more sense. Hydra's then scouted out. Or at least the presence of an additional tech node. I don't know if AOT actually clicked on it. Something that would be pretty cool if... I mean, this is something probably like new engine territory when we have our own engine. We're working with our own game entirely, like IP-wise and stuff. It would be pretty neat to be able to like click on a structure and then find some way to access whether another player has clicked it, you know? Or maybe just ID'd, and that would be click, or it would be like scouted when it was completed, or when it otherwise demonstrated what it was through some other context clue or whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure how you would exactly categorize it, but just decide, like being able to decode whether, you know, player 3 in an FFA clicked player 7's structure when it was being made without having to actually have been there. I don't know. It's kind of a neat idea. The Nats are going to miss the drop, and it is 6 Zeth, so Jack can definitely do some damage here. The Quaz are all at the front gate. But the Nats can conversely do a little bit of damage as well if they park themselves onto this rightmost Larvosk. Zeth end up unloading elsewhere, so the Ovoleth will not even be scouted. Oh, this is bad timing for Jack, though. Look at that. He might still be able to get away with some damage, but it's not going to be in the way that he wanted. The Larvosk will be held, and that's just difficult timing. You know, I got to say unlucky. Nobody has their build orders really properly locked in. A little bit of a lackadaisical response to the Nats driven all the way up here in the top right, forcing some burrow. Should be able to pick a Droleth, but I guess not. Maybe a little bit of poor timing on the burrow, or poor timing on the focus fire there, rather. So he gets a little bit of mining time deductions, but doesn't lose any Nats. AOT should be happy enough with that. Going for a Calcure Lake rush again, and rallying out some Droleth, looking for that Apex Strain. We saw what it can do for him in the previous. Khaz'Trith on the way to give you extra attacks. I forgot to explain that unit when we saw it on the island map, but essentially when you're attacking melee or ranged units, you have a yellow overlay if you're near a Khaz'Trith that's been active for long enough. It like slowly spreads out over time upon either being unloaded from a transport, because you can pick up some structures in Cosmonarchy, or being birthed, being mutated and gestated. And when this yellow overlay is active, you can target 2 other units that are near your primary attack target, and you're dealing 50% damage to them. So as long as you're actually attacking 3 units that are right next to each other, you are dealing double damage. It's just spread across a little bit. And there's no effect on the main target. The main target just takes more damage, as usual. Pretty good utilitarian structure. 1 Droleth getting picked here by AOT's Naths. He's just being annoying with him. Keeps all 6 alive. I'm guessing, yeah, I'm pretty sure the pull here is for the dead units, rather, to be able to break through this position. And we do have some Lyra coming up, but, you know, AOT doesn't have the most money. He is trying to do a lot of things at once, capping the ridge inside his natural. He's already done so in the... Well, I guess he's doing it both at the same time. He's also building a macro hatch, and he's recently added a Larvosk, and now he's making some calcs. And so this could end in a way that maybe Jack could break open. He's got some Vorvs out here as well. This is going to be a pretty nice attack, I think. But the sort of line here, with more Lyras than I thought were actually being made by AOT, might even dissuade Jack from attacking inward. Maybe he wants to sort of camp outside of it. Oh, okay, he can try elevatoring. That's also a fine trick in this situation. Calcs are done, so we could end up seeing that go their way. Maybe he just wants to see if he can pick off a couple of Larvosks, but the answer is no. In fact, you cannot do that. The Scout's a more full understanding of what the defense actually is. A lot of idle workers back at home. Goes for a ski-backed and looking for a whole lot of Zeths for AOT, interestingly enough. Another round of Droleth for Jack. As long as he absorbs this pressure and doesn't end up losing his army, he's actually a no threat. And it's totally good for him to get more workers here. And he is conquering this army pretty one-sidedly. Not enough Lyra, and they had to chew through like Zeth and Vorv and all that stuff. The Hydra count is more than enough. Yeah, sure, your calcs are getting some good damage, but you just kind of kite backwards here and kill all the Zeths. And then the Hydras should be okay. Actually, Zeths are doing a lot better than I thought they would. I wonder if maybe the calcs were sort of pulling the Hydras inwards and, you know, didn't end up, the stutter stepping didn't end up happening there. Now you're trying to use those workers that he made, but no third base on the way behind that attack, and now he's making a whole bunch of Hydras. He wished he still had all the other ones so that he could actually make some backdills on the spot, but has to be a bit limited in what he does. Avaleth goes down inside the main base, gets a pretty good scout off, sees that there's no other tech at the very least before he ends up dying. This Bactalisk egg is going to be killed, making 4 more back at home. And many more Hydras. He has to protect against the Calcs, but Bactalisks will actually deal pretty well with that, as long as you properly target them. They have the same weapon range, so easy enough for the Bactals to step forward in most circumstances. Adrolef coming with the army, probably wants to go up towards the 12 o'clock. Take that. Calcs come in for some pressure. There's only some Quas over here. And no anti-air defenses or anything. Army sighted, moving out by this Avaleth. Does that change AOT's game plan? He's got a ton of Lyra, a ton of Quas back at home. His army count is humongous. Over 25 more than that of his opponent, 50% bigger. By count, remember that Hydras and Bactals are worth more than, say, Zeths, but I mean, there's no Izira cores and there's no other frontliners, and Tier 2 is coming for Turtle as his third base is there at 6 o'clock being made. So both players going for that third. Roughly similar timings with AOT with a maybe like 10-15 second lead on that. But his Iral Iris is done. I mean, just about. It doesn't take long at all after it gets put down. And so this does mean that there's tech available for Turtle. He is not immediately using it, but we'll have to wait and see what he actually wants to do. One day I'll probably tell you guys a little bit of a story about some ideas I have for mechanics after Acropolis 4, but we got to focus on the here and now. And Zeph, Quasi, Lyralis, it's all coming up cool right now. Turtle's kind of bisected the army. Izira cores are trying to reinforce. There's no front line over here whatsoever. The Hydras have to be the front line. The Zeph flank chewing up some of these backdills and taking away all of the damage that's supposed to be earmarked for this other fight. Jack has kind of been sandwiched here. More Zeths can come out forward, and all of the Hydras, all of the backdills are eaten for dinner. AOT having a feast, a Chokol Chazel on the way, so we know he's going to be going for some pretty advanced plague units. At least that's what I assume he's going to do once that Alcag finishes. And there it is. 12 o'clock killed. At least we do have 11 active and being made, but yeah, it's Vigrilisks on the way for Turtle. He wants to be a little tanky, maybe deal some nice damage with the rest of his army. The Evigs are more about absorption than they are about actually doing damage. Sprates being here to reinforce, get in case those Calcs decide to go on a harassment vector. Capping the big gases, the geysers, in both of his active mining bases and starting to send some Drolets over to 6 o'clock. It does feel like Turtle is in control with this game. Smart decisions, good timings on his attack. The tech, I'm not entirely sure, is going to come up him, but he does have a lot more Evigs on the way. As they're still walking, they actually multi-target for less damage. It's only when they actually stand still that they focus down one target. But it takes so much effort to actually kill them. I don't think any of them have died quite yet. Maybe one has. There's another in the back that's popped. And well, it does feel like this has been enough initially, but there's more where that came from. And remember, 5 more got made, 4 more are in production. It's just a little bit difficult for pure Hydra to deal with something like this. And when you see the Evig as well, as a Zerg player, Jack knows all the units. He knows that he's down in terms of Tier 2 tech. Maybe he'll breathe a sigh of relief thinking that they're not very good units. But oh no! All of these units were mining this whole time. Turtle, get your workers to work. Retaking 12 o'clock. Patch is complete. We got a little bit of mining going on here at 11 for Jack. That's the top left natural. In theory, he can be on 4 bases, but now capping both gas nodes in the third for Turtle. He's got so much more to play with. Still trying to keep it on the Evig train. Not too interested in like Almac or even the Kagralisk, where you have the opportunity for Plague. Would be a pretty good move. Evigs are standing and fighting for now. Zeths are really outnumbering the Hydra count, forcing some step backs. Start your engines, boys, because the Zeths are going to try to get a little bit of a counterattack. There are some Evigs over here. I don't think they're going to go down to that many Zeths. Could be wrong. Maybe they need to start patrol microing or something, but yeah, it does feel like... Oh yeah, he starts to walk away, and then the multi-attack takes over. Very nice play there from Turtle to even recognize that. He definitely knows the mechanics of the unit, because I was going to say, if they just stand and fight, it could be a problem. You can see it takes a lot longer for the single target attack to do anything here. I mean, this one was wounded from before, but some counter Zeths come up, and looks like even though the Evics will go down, he doesn't end up slowing the economy in any capacity. And there's the Choco Chazzle. There it is. You can turn the Avigralisk into a giant crab called the Acriminalisk. And he's doing it. 4 Acriminalisks on the way. Iris is halfway complete for Jack, so he's trying to do his own little tech spike now. Doesn't have the armor end to properly deal with Okrim, I think. They will just start shooting at everything that moves, everything on the screen. It's wild. It's a great time. Avaleth seeing what is around, what is hanging out. A whole buttload of Zeths moving to the right-hand side of the map. Definitely going to be arcing up towards that natural, it looks like. They'll accept a few Hydras. And the Okrims are here. They're gargantuan. Give them some respect. 800 life on those things. 5 armor on those puppies. All the Hydras returning to try to deal with the Zeths. Some kind of weird campaign mission. Spire. Okay. Well, I think I know what Jack is planning on doing, and actually if he gets enough Protathalors in the short term, he can deal with the Okrim. I'm not convinced that he even knows that they're there, but now he does. He sees them in the here and now, so his plan needs to really working. And it's instead of the Protathalors for the sniping, he's going to go for a bunch of Mutas. Now, in theory, this can be good, because as you see, the Omnisports and the Okrim don't shoot up. But Lyras have splash damage on their anti-air attack. Calcs have splash damage. Naths are okay. I don't know that the Muta count is actually going to be able to clump up an army fight. And I don't think that if he sends the Mutas across the map to do damage, he's going to be able to prevent a base race from coming up Turtle. There's 2 more Okrim somewhere else in the map as well. Here come the Mutas to show themselves. At the very least, they're pretty split up right now. But keep in mind that the Lyra count and the Calc count is going to be more than enough to start shredding these Mutas. They are not meant for anti-splash. That is not what they're supposed to do, and they all end up collapsing. Not a single Calc has gone down. The Okrim paintbrushing all the Hydras to death as well, and it feels like Art of Turtle is just about ready to get himself into the battlement stage off the back of 3 excellent ZvZ matches. GG's. Jakulangski will fight Grasseater in a ZvZ rematch, but AOT punches his ticket to the battlement stage. Well, that was pretty cool, pretty nifty. And even though it was a 3-0, we didn't get to see Jack giving himself a chance to get on the board proper. It didn't feel like a blowout in the same way that sometimes you do get from these qualification bouts or these best-of-5s in general. Jack had some play in all games in the set, especially the first and the last. And I look forward to seeing how he error corrects going into his next set. We will be live with those... well, not live, but we will be pre-recorded with those lower qualification matches soon. Stay tuned for that, and while you're at it, check out Alex Gaming on YouTube if you're not already. I do some co-casts with him, and he does cover StarCraft mods in general, as far as the competitive multiplayer stuff is concerned. So a good follow if you're not aware that we're doing stuff together. So GG, we'll be back very soon for more Cosmonarchy.